Folks, for centuries, people have been asking that age-old question: are we alone in the universe? Or are there other civilizations out there just waiting to visit us? Or have they already been here? Since the 1950s, thousands upon thousands of reports have come in. People seeing these large, hairy creatures that have a bad smell and make strange noises. Do they exist? Hi, welcome to Around the Town with Marilyn Forbes. I am so excited to be bringing back Stan Gordon to our show. Since Stan's been with us last, there's actually been a lot more sightings on a local level that he's excited to tell us about. And we're also going to revisit a pretty interesting site right here in our area that's celebrating a big anniversary this year. So please, folks, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, folks, as promised, it is my pleasure to be welcoming back Stan Gordon. Stan, thank you so much for being on the show. But before we get into all of the sightings and everything that's been happening, there's some folks out there who may not be familiar with you and your work. So you want to fill us in real quick on, tell us about Stan Gordon.
Well, I've been doing this for a long, long time, going on 66 years of research.
Wow.
Starting this in 1959 as a 10-year-old kid. I happened to hear a radio show talking about strange, unusual happenings. Went to our Greensburg library, started reading about these things. And I've been out in the field since the Kecksburg case in 1965. And since then, I've investigated literally thousands of UFO cases, hundreds of Bigfoot cases, and what they call cryptids. So Bigfoot's a cryptid. It's a creature which people report, but which science has never confirmed exists.
Okay.
So I've been doing it for years and years. In 1969, I set up a hotline for the public to report UFO sightings. My phone continues to ring all the time, plus a lot of email reports. So I get reports from all over Pennsylvania on a regular basis, and many people throughout the country and out of the country contact me.
So he's been at this for decades then,
Yeah.
literally. And over that time, he's actually wrote a few books too on some of his experiences and everything, and these can be bought
At Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Okay, and they're big sellers. Stan is, as I said, very well known in the area. He has a very, very, very nice following. And okay, so from 69 onward then, you said that you got regular sightings, but I do understand from the last time you've been with us that he has actually gotten reports of a lot more that are of a local nature, correct?
That's true.
Okay, so tell us about what's been happening.
A lot of sightings here in southwest Pennsylvania, but across the state as well. And I should tell you that during the time I was investigating, going years back, I had teams of scientists, engineers, research specialists who all volunteer their time to go out in the field to investigate these cases. And we always try to find an explanation before we say something unusual, unexplained. So many UFO sightings of misidentification of natural or man-made objects.
Okay.
Even Bigfoot reports, some have been determined to be large shaggy dogs or hunters in camouflage outfits or bear in the area. So we can explain a lot of things, but every year cases are going on that you cannot easily dismiss. And in fact, in recent years, we're seeing a surge of more detailed reports, many sightings in daylight now, and many at close range.
That's interesting. Yeah. Daylight. Go ahead.
So a lot of UFO sightings, we're getting a lot of reports of what the government, the government now has an office investigating UFO sightings.
Oh.
They call it UAP, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. So they're taking it very seriously. And every federal agency is involved in this. This is no longer a joke. This is a serious scientific matter. It may be a security issue that they're looking into. So they're not laughing about these cases anymore. So what they call these tic tacs are these long kind of cigar-shaped objects, wingless, that in many cases just hovering there and just disappear, as we've had it right around this area even the last few years.
No, you said tic tac?
Tic tac, shaped like the old tic tac candies.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
And so they're fascinating. We're getting reports of large black triangular objects. One was reported March 26th in the afternoon, right on Route 30 outside of Greensburg, right where all the restaurants and everything is. And interestingly, in the last few years, other people are reporting UFO sightings in daylight, beautiful afternoons in that same vicinity.
Now, I remember when the last time you and I did a show, we were talking about why you felt that there were so many in that area. Wasn't it due to there's so much electrical activity going on as far as businesses and stuff, or what was your reasoning?
Well,
you had a reason what you thought. Why?
Okay, it wasn't that particular area, but the pattern I found years ago is that many close-range, low-level UFO sightings and many encounters with Bigfoot and other cryptids often occur in the vicinity of energy sources.
Okay.
So you have a lot of sightings around high-tension power lines, power plants, bodies of water, railroad tracks, gas wells, gas lines, all kind of radio towers. that continues to be reported in many, many cases.
Now, in your professional opinion, you're saying that these sightings are in like these real populated areas, like we'll use Greensburg in the mall area. Do you think their sightings are there because maybe they're going to that area because it's populated, or because people are seeing them because there's more people? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you think they're coming to a more populated area?
Well, over the years, going back many, many years, a lot of sightings were mainly in rural areas, forested areas, mountainous areas. But in more recent years, we're getting more reports of all these different anomalies in more populated areas. So you're getting UFO sightings throughout the greater Pittsburgh area, again, over more populated areas. Around Irwin last year, North Huntington, we were getting reports on people seeing these things hovering right over the business districts.
In daylight?
Oh, yeah, in daylight.
Okay.
And there have been other areas as well around Latrobe, Derry. We've had sightings of all kind of anomalies for years, especially up around the Chestnut Ridge. But these things are not happening just in the mountainous areas. They're occurring more in more populated areas where there's not a lot of woods. Even Bigfoot sightings are occurring more often now, where people are seeing them in daylight 50, 60 feet away. So there are very detailed reports coming in.
And you're also able to get there's some pictures, I understand, coming forth now, and some videos of some of the sightings that people are saying.
Oh yeah, we're receiving quite a number of videos, still photographs of these objects. We get game cam pictures in, we get security camera pictures in. But once again, while we get a lot of pictures, some of these are determined to be some type of camera malfunction. There's different type of electronic glitches within cameras that can produce odd effects. So sometimes things show up, but they can be explained. And in other cases, some of them are very, very interesting, and they're showing us something they're, again, we're not sure what they are.
When Stan and I met last time, he was telling us about these little, I don't want to say orbs of light, but the little, explain that. I had never heard of it whenever he and I did that show. Now, you said since then, and that was, 2 years ago or so. Yeah. That's really, really increased in this area. You want to explain
well, that's still going on.
What those are, or what's happening with them?
I knew about these in the 1960s.
Oh, wow,
I've been calling them mini UFOs for years. You're starting to hear more talk about this now on some of the TV shows and radio shows, talking about these different types of strange things going on. These small orbs, because an orb, of course, is something spherical. So you're getting these round spheres of light. They range anywhere generally from golf ball to baseball to about 1 foot or 2 in diameter. Some variation in them, generally spherical, but not always. They're generally light sources of different colors. And then I have a few cases where they're metallic and look solid looking, where they come very close to people in daylight over the years. But they're being reported now all over the country and around the world. Interestingly, one of the patterns I found long ago, and now it's being reported nationwide, is that in areas where we have a long history of Bigfoot encounters, people are seeing these small spheres of light coming out of the woods and coming up very close to people.
So do you think there's a relationship between
I think there
the
is,
two?
and I'm not suggesting that it's something extraterrestrial, but we get involved in this, but it gets very involved because there's so much data now coming in. But back in 1973, when we had the biggest UFO and Bigfoot outbreak in history here in Pennsylvania in this area, that's when we uncovered cases that indicated Bigfoot was much stranger than just an unknown animal. For a lack of a better term, we'll call it interdimensional. It has a physical and a non-physical component to it, which is why there's no bodies. I mean, just the quick example is February 6, 1974, way up in the mountains of Fayette County, a woman living in her cabin home heard a commotion on her porch, thought it was a pack of wild dogs out there, knocking some empty soda cans around, grabbed her 16-gauge double-barrel shotgun, had one chamber loaded, was going to fire over the heads to scare the dogs away. 7 feet away from this person, actually I should say 6 feet away from this person, was a 7-foot-tall gray-haired Bigfoot. Put its arms up over its head. When she turned on the porch light, she fired into it. There was a bright flash of light, and it disappeared. And that's the short part of the story.
So you think that's the basis of why people can't find a Bigfoot body or anything like that?
And a lot of the UFO reports, you have cases here in Pennsylvania and other areas, we have solid objects that suddenly begin to fade away and vanish. They suddenly appear and disappear, and sometimes they change physical form, one form into another. There's some similarities showing up now with these various anomalies. I don't think anybody understands it. We'll say right now, for lack of a better term, interdimensional, but it's a physical and a non-physical component to what we're dealing with. and it's very complex and very interesting.
Oh, that's very interesting, and I think it's really cool. Stan was telling us before we started that right here in Mount Pleasant Township, there actually has been some sightings very recently. Some reports, should I say?
Oh yeah. Well, for years there have been sightings in Mount Pleasant Township. We've had really Bigfoot sightings I've heard about going back in the 1960s in this area, but we've had the little orbs seen in this area. I've had people come 20, 30 feet away from their homes and they see them floating around. Last year we had a very big triangular object observed. Other people are sending videos in of what they're seeing around this general area. So they're seeing them not just here, but all over Western PA and other areas.
Now, I'm intrigued with the little orbs. Now, are people seeing them in the woods, or are they seeing them in commercial areas? Where are they being reported, or just everywhere?
Well, going back for years now, it's not new to me because I've been dealing with these things for years. In 2022, we had the biggest surge of these cases ever all through Pennsylvania. We've had reports of these things in daylight, beautiful weather, coming up within a few feet of people. We've had cases over the years, these things pacing vehicles, entering people's homes and cars through open windows, tapping on people's living room windows and then moving off. But they don't seem to be bothering anybody, whatever they are.
They're just here to maybe check us out.
Well, there's a lot of theories on it, but nobody knows for sure. But I believe it's a very important part of the UFO mystery, which a lot of people haven't paid a lot of attention to. They're talking about a lot of high altitude reports, but these are close to the ground and close to people.
Interesting.
And some of the cases are quite intriguing. And in fact, we've had incidents where these things have actually been on the ground.
So you don't have to necessarily keep your eyes to the skies. You can just keep your eyes open.
Right. Well, one interesting case happened, I believe it was this year, I think it was in January, February. I don't have my notes with me. One of my research associates, Jim Brown, who investigates a lot of these cases, investigated it. It was early morning. Sun was just coming up. This man was drinking coffee. He noticed a reflection on the ceiling in his kitchen. Thought there was somebody outside with a flashlight. Goes to look, and 20 feet away, you got three, I believe they're basketball-sized spheres in a triangular formation. They joined together and shot straight up into the sky and were gone.
Oh my gosh.
It's on my website, by the way, a lot of these reports.
Yes, and also too, I want to encourage you folks to go to his website as often as you can. He always has a lot of different speaking engagements, and he has book signing engagements. And Stan's a busy, very, very busy man, and he's a very interesting person to visit and to talk to. And what I'm excited about is, if any of you have ever visited him, you know that wherever he's at, he always has a big cast of a Bigfoot foot. And it's one that he had for several years. But tell us about this one.
Well, this is new. Actually, this is from April of last year up in Blair County. So up around outside of Hollidaysburg, Evansburg, that general area. And this came from Eric Altman, the director of the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society. He had got a report from several hunters up there that the hunters had found a series of these big tracks deep in the woods. So Eric got his team up there, and they made several casts. It had rained the night before, unfortunately, but when they got there, at least there were a few good footprints still left. So this is 15 inches long and 8 inches wide and 5-toed.
And this was just recently. This is
just
a year.
Well, it was April of last year.
Yes, that's what I mean. So that's amazing.
But we're continuing to get other Bigfoot sightings reported already this year from different areas. A lot of people in different areas reporting unusual screams and howls. A lot of sightings always along this Chestnut Ridge area, but other areas as well where it's not as wooded. So these things have been going on for a long time. The people that see these things, just like UFOs, they're reluctant to talk about it publicly.
I was just going to ask you about that. Okay.
They're afraid to be laughed at. They don't want to be ridiculed. Many of them have important jobs. For many of these people, it was their first experience seeing something they could not explain. And for many people, it's a life-changing experience.
But now someone can phone into you or go on your website, and they can post their happenings anonymously, right? I mean, they don't have to.
Well, I don't use people's names.
Okay, I just want people to understand that they don't have to feel, like they're going to be exposed or anything.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, which is stangordon.info, stangordon.info, and my phone number's on there, my email are on there, my 2 emails, so they can email me or call me and go from there.
Now, I do want to show you folks, too, this is something else that he brought here. If you want to explain what this is here.
Well, it's a little hard to say. This was a capture from a video. This is from January of 2023 near Irwin. That, again, is one of these Tic Tacs, these kind of cigar-shaped objects, look kind of metallic in daytime, have no wings. Some of them look pretty large. And in a lot of cases, these things are hovering there and just suddenly just vanish or move very, very slowly across the sky.
Now, is this something that someone sent you?
Yeah, well, it's actually from a video that I got.
Oh, okay.
And then just recently, I received another very similar video from, I can't think exactly where, the greater Pittsburgh area that was taken, I think, a few months later, if I remember. But we see very, very similar reports coming in. And lots of times people see these objects in daylight going into clouds but never coming out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have a question. I don't think I've ever asked you this before. Do you think that there's anything, like, what do I want to say, any relationship between moon phases and sightings, like a full moon? Does a full moon bring out any more, or is that just kind of an old wives' tale?
I have not seen that pattern.
Okay.
Because, one, we receive reports all year round. Okay, all year round you get reports, beautiful afternoons, snowstorms, thunderstorms. We get reports of all type of weather conditions. So those are the things we look at as well. But what's really interesting is that's what we had for years and years. But in the fall and winter of 2021, things began to change. And when things generally slowed down because of the weather around the area, we had an increase in low-level, close-range UFO sightings like in October of 2021. And it continued through 2022 and now 23 and 24 and 20. It has been nonstop now for years, all year round, in all kind of weather, all kind of sightings of strange creatures, Bigfoot, UFOs, all kind of reports coming in. It's been very, very busy all year.
Now, you said earlier about going out and investigating. Mm-hmm. So, like, what exactly does that mean? Like, if I would call you up or leave a message that I saw a sighting in Mount Pleasant Township around, Norvelt. Mm-hmm. Would you physically go then and go to the area that I saw the sighting, or how does that go as far as an investigation?
Well, for years and years and years when I had my teams, that's exactly what we would do. I would go out in many cases, but technology has changed now. There's a lot of things that we can interview the witness and get a pretty good idea of what they saw. And before even going out, we know that they saw Starlink satellites, They saw the planet Venus, they had a reentry of space debris, a lot of things we can figure out. Not every sighting determines that is something we have to do. Okay. Now, I don't have my groups anymore, but I'm in touch with many other researchers who have a lot of experience. And if I can't get out, because I can't get out as good as I used to, it's a little hard for me climbing up those woods like I used to. But there's a lot of other experienced research I'm in touch with. If the case warrants it, somebody will get out there.
So then basically what you're saying then is, with all of your experience and your years of doing this, you can pretty much do a process of elimination immediately. You can figure out like what it is they possibly saw versus...
Yeah, each case varies, but lots of things you can explain without going out. And then if a case warrants it, if somebody can get out, they will. Got to remember, it's all voluntary. A lot of people have their own jobs, and so we work things around everybody's schedules.
Now, I know that, you go, as I mentioned earlier, he goes to a lot of festivals and different, conventions or whatever, symposiums. And now, whenever you're sitting there and people are coming up to you, do a lot of people come up to you and tell you stories there and then? I'll bet you get a lot of that. I thought you would.
Yeah, in fact, I just read a column about this in the little gay magazine I write for. It comes out quarterly. And the whole thing is so interesting. Everywhere I go, people come up to me and tell me about things they've seen.
Really?
Sometimes they're recent reports, old reports. They report it to nobody. I'm in touch with many other researchers and groups. They all get reports. And again, nobody knows how much of this is going on. I would bet you that this is almost an everyday occurrence when reports coming in and people are seeing things and they either don't report it or they wait weeks, months, or years before they do. But a lot of people do call us even recent days about seeing things. So people are calling in.
What I think is interesting is the increase in daylight sightings.
Yeah.
Do you think there's actually an increase in daylight sightings, or maybe people are starting to realize that like what they're seeing is... do you understand what I'm saying? Like maybe they've been around, but people just haven't been reporting them. Or do you think there is an increase actually in daylight sightings?
From what I'm seeing, there's an increase in detailed quality reports about the UFO sightings and even the Bigfoot reports, because they're not a half a mile away in the dark. They're not in the distance away where they can't tell what they're seeing. These are detailed, what they're seeing from head to toe. And the objects, are getting very detailed accounts of what these things are doing and what people are seeing.
Okay. Now, I want to get back to your books real quick here. Okay, your books are they just an amalgamation of stories that you've heard or investigations that you've done, or what are your books about?
These are basically based on cases I investigated or somebody close to me in my research teams. Most of them cases I investigated. The first book is Really Mysterious Pennsylvania, which details a lot of cases around Western PA, this area, Westmoreland, Fayette, Indiana County, and others, where people are physically very close to UFOs or creature, very close to them. And then the next book is very popular. That's about the massive wave here in 1973, when we had those amazing cases with Bigfoot and UFOs seen together. And then we have Astonishing Encounters, which again has all kind of UFO creature cases, very detailed accounts. And the newest book, Creepy Cryptids, has indeed some very creepy stories in it. All kind of creature sightings, things people have never heard of before. A lot about the orbs, UFOs, the Thunderbird sightings, those huge flying creatures are seen around here. Black Panther sightings, all kind of strange things.
Well, hey, before we're going to go on a little field trip, so stay with us, folks. But before we go, I want Stan to give the folks the opportunity, like if they see something, what should they do?
Okay, well, one, they can call me at 724-838-7768. They get on my website, stangordon.info. There's information on there, phone numbers, emails. They can get a hold of me very easily. And if a case warrants it, we'll try to get investigated.
So the kind of information that somebody should have is like what, maybe the date, the time, the place, the
write all the details down, or
pictures.
Email me, and if you get pictures, if you can, yep. And books are available again on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Okay, so Stan and I are going to go on a little field trip, and he's going to tell us a little bit about a very famous incident who is celebrating an anniversary this year.
It sure is.
So stick with us, folks. And we are here now in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and this little small town was actually the site of something really big back in 1965. And as we said, it's celebrating the anniversary this year, 60 years, and Stan's going to tell us all about it. Stan, tell us what happened here on a winter night in 1965.
Well, it was December 9th, Thursday night, 65. I was 16 years old. I was already interested in UFO reports.
At that time? Okay.
And I'm listening to KDK radio in Pittsburgh. They had a talk radio show called Contact. It was very popular. And they had a special guest on that night who was a journalist who had written some books on unusual happenings. So I wanted to listen to him.
Okay.
Well, almost the entire show was covering this breaking news of this brilliant fireball that was seen from Ontario, Canada, over Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Whatever the object was, it came about 4:47 p.m. over the Pittsburgh area. And what we now know is that it came in to Westmoreland County, where we're located, and moved out towards Route 30 east of Greensburg, made a turn to the south, and then was seen all along those rural communities, such as Marguerite and Norvelt, and outside of Kecksburg, and moved out to the mountains of Laurelville, which is out there. And according to one witness and others who saw it, the thing kind of hesitated, began to track back outside of Kecksburg, made another turn down and dropped down into the woods. And over the years, I tracked down hundreds of people involved in the case. We could talk for hours and hours about this. But some of the locals here, before it fell, it passed within maybe 200 or 300 feet over their head.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So some of the local people saw the thing drop down into the woods. But everybody said to me, this thing didn't come down at a high rate of speed, like a reentry of space debris or a meteor. It came down almost like it was making a controlled landing.
Okay.
So what we didn't know at the time was that some of the locals, right after it fell, thinking it may have been an aircraft that may have gone down, they went down into the woods. And that's when they came across that kind of an off-gold bronze color acorn-shaped object semi-buried in the ground. And the interesting thing is there was no weld marks, no seams, no screws and bolts, nothing that looked like it was something that was normally man-made. It was one solid piece of metal.
Wow.
One witness who stood next to it, only a few feet away, was a machinist most of his life, and he said it looked like somebody took liquid metal and poured it into an acorn-shaped mold.
Wow.
But on the raised up back part of the object, there were these raised up markings that more look some type of symbols than writing.
Almost like a hieroglyphics type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what some people described it.
Did they say approximately about how large it was? Is this about actual size?
Well, one witness who saw this after it was made said actually he believed it was actually a little longer.
Okay.
They estimated this thing was at least 10 to 12 feet in length, about 8 to 10 feet in diameter. It was big enough for a man to stand inside of.
Now, whenever the witnesses came and they saw it, was it, what do I want to say, like making any type of noise? Did it seem like it was occupied? I mean, what did the eyewitnesses say?
Quite a number of volunteer fire departments were called out thinking it was a possible downed aircraft in this area.
Okay, all right.
So that's what happened there. But he was on the team that came in to Kecksburg. They were going to set up a grid search to look for this object, and he gave us a lot of detail what happened that night, where the firemen were in different trucks. They left them off at different areas along the base of the woods, and they all had walkie-talkies. And he heard on the radio short time later that one of the team had come across what had fallen. And he hurried over with some of the fellows from his team, and they were standing on this little embankment looking down at this thing. It was semi-buried in the ground. And nobody touched it. They walked around it because it looked so unusual. And but the interesting part of the story is that after this thing fell and it began to make news all over the Pittsburgh area on radio and TV, you know, hundreds of people began to descend on the small farming community. And but what made it even more intriguing was the fact that within a relatively short time, the military began to show up.
Now, did they come that very day?
Oh, yeah, they
came that day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure of.
There were some witnesses locally here swore to me that within the first hour, they began to see a small military presence, like, for example, a jeep moving around, looking for this thing. The point is, you couldn't see where this thing fell from any of the areas around here because it was down, way down in the ravine. If you weren't standing in there, you wouldn't be able to see it from on any of the roads. And but then over the next few hours, numerous military vehicles and military personnel came in. Now, not just the locals told me this, but I interviewed retired state police. I interviewed reporters. You had all the reporters here from all the Pittsburgh major radio, TV, newspapers, and television. And I interviewed many of them, and they all witnessed seeing either military presence or interacted with the military. There was no doubt they were there.
Right.
Even though the only official record of this is the Air Force Project Blue Book file said there were 3 Air Force personnel, and they found nothing. But we know from many eyewitnesses and information I obtained later on that this object was removed from the area. It was taken out on a military flatbed tractor trailer with a tarp over it. It went to Lockbourne Air Force Base near Columbus, Ohio, under very heavy guard, stayed there a short time, then continued on to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Where it is at today, we do not know.
I was just going to ask you where it's at today. I think what's fascinating is this isn't just a little story that has generated local interest. Stan actually is a part of the Kecksburg UFO Festival, which is always held in July every year. It gets bigger and bigger every year, so check it out, folks. But last year, there were people from Poland that were making a documentary? Or?
There was a TV crew from Polish television came here because a lot of people in Poland had never heard about Kecksburg, and they wanted to make them aware of it. And
imagine that.
But they interviewed some witnesses, and they interviewed myself, and spent the whole day here at the festival, interviewing a lot of people. So the case is known not only throughout the country, but throughout the world.
Well, it was actually, where did this little specimen here come from? Tell the folks about that.
I believe I know it was made for the Unsolved Mysteries season premiere at the time on this case. I believe it was 1990.
So it actually has got a lot of national exposure then.
Oh yeah, it's been on many TV shows. A lot of people still talk about it. And now with the congressional hearings on UFOs, you got whistleblowers talking about a government UFO recovery program was secret. More people are talking about Kecksburg again.
Do you think that we'll ever know what landed in Kecksburg in 1965?
There have been many, many theories about it. I've looked into all kinds of theories. I've talked to multitudes of witnesses and people who have interesting information to give. And I can just tell you this, as far as what I know, and there's some things I have not released yet until I can get more confirmation on it, the mystery still remains. What was that object that fell in 1965?
Thank you again.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. Stan is always a great person to have on the program. He's always so interesting, and he's really fun to listen to. And please, take his advice. Don't hesitate to give him a call if you see anything fun and interesting out there. So, folks, again, I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember, keep smiling, keep dreaming, and keep watching. And also, keep watching the skies and keep watching the force. You never know what you might see.